Hey guys, Lee Ellis here with Seek One, about to dive into how to find big deer. All right, Realtree asked us to come down here, talk about some topics. This one is how to find big deer. I'm not talking about it. That's the end of the video. Thank you. I'm kidding. I'll talk. So how to find big deer? Well, first and foremost, you have to know, well, not know, but like you have to find where big deer live. If you're not around a big deer, you're not going to kill a big deer. Part of what has made us successful over the last several years is being mobile. So we kind of a motto we go with is like leave no stone unturned. The search never, ever, ever, ever stops. And it plays into our style of hunting well because the sky is the limit. If you get a spot and there's no good deer there, man, keep going. Keep going down the road, go to the next place, go to the next place. Just literally keep plugging away. And you will eventually run into a big deer. But I'll dive a little deeper than that. Every big deer that I have ever hunted, and this is whether it's suburban or whether it's rural, a big deer has to have a sanctuary. They have to have a place, a refuge, place that they can go and hide and get old. I've seen this time and time again in the suburbs, whether it's whatever it may be, some no hunting zone, no hunting area, some old lady that owns a bunch of ground that won't give permission. It can be literally for any reason that this area cannot be hunted. A lot of those places offer sanctuaries for these deer to get to old age. And then on the vice versa side, or on the other flip side, in the rural stuff, same deal. If a certain landowner owns a big block, they don't give hunting permission, you're going to want to get as close to that property as you can because it's probably going to harbor a big deer. Same deal, there's a lot of state ground and just, again, lots of places that can't be hunted for whatever reason. So this is something that applies on the suburban side. It also applies on the rural side and kind of anywhere in between, that a big deer has to have a sanctuary. So a lot of times I'm trying to find out, okay, not necessarily where can I hunt deer, but where can't I hunt deer? I'm looking in places where it's super hard to get access. And that is a lot of times where you're going to find these zones that just grow big deer. There's a lot that goes into creating a big deer. Obviously, it's nutrition is part of it. Genetics is another part, but age is probably one of the biggest things that if you don't get a deer to a certain age, he will not get to his full potential. So again, it's just finding these refuges, finding the places where, if you were to kind of envision yourself, if I'm being hunted in all these different areas, like where would I live to be able to like avoid all this pressure and hide? Now, I'll also flip this on the other side, and that sometimes those zones of where deer get old are not always the biggest properties that you see on a map. Sometimes they are actually some of the most overlooked places. And some of the biggest deer that we've killed over the years have come from very nook and cranny type spots. And a lot of times it's extremely overlooked. Most people will, in their minds, if they're looking at a map, they're like, I'm not going to hunt there. There's no deer there. That place doesn't look great. They're going to hit the obvious places first and foremost. That's what most people do. And what we're oftentimes doing, I even hate talking about this to be honest with you, but we're looking for the breadcrumb places. The upside down buck, for example, is a spot where this place I had it backed up to plenty of woods. I mean, plenty of places, that a deer can live and do deer things. But the little place that I had gotten permission on was literally just a tiny, tiny corner of this person's lot that had some hardwoods in it down by a river, and it was all I needed to have a chance at that deer. And it's like, if I don't get a yes on one of those little breadcrumb places that backs up to where that deer lives, like I'm not in the game. That is probably the biggest ingredient to how to find big deer, is finding where they can get old. And again, it's across the board, it's universal. And then getting access to where these deer live is if you don't have a yes, if you don't have a place to hunt, you're not in the game. You'll never have a chance at that deer. I also feel like that's kind of what has separated us from, the crowd, so to speak, and people kind of ask, like, how are they constantly, having success year after year? And it's that we have been doing this for a long, long time. And we've been doing this knocking on doors since we were 15 years old. I just turned 34, so I'm not a math guy, but 19 years? Can someone confirm? 19, right? 19 years. That's a long time of learning how to read people, how to have conversations with people, reading the room and kind of figuring out like what road to go down. Every conversation with each landowner is always different. There's certain things that appeal to them. There's certain things that are the red flags. I like to try and find those red flags. And I think when most people get a no, they're like, okay, cool, great, thanks. I kind of live in the no. And again, you're having to read the landowner, but I'll ask why a lot of times. Like, hey, do you mind if I ask why it's a no? A lot of times it's for a stupid reason or a silly reason that, like, once you can actually talk about it, that landowner finally finds out, like, oh, well, that's, they had a misunderstanding of kind of what they originally thought. I'll give you an example. I got permission from a lady. Well, I knocked on this lady's door, asked her about hunting. She flipped out, basically said that she was going to shoot me. And I actually kind of questioned her. I said, what are you going to tell my mom? And I kind of caught her off guard, and it just like kind of like took the emotion out of it and checked her a little bit. And then we actually got the opportunity to talk about it. And her initial reaction was she thought that I was just out there to shoot Bambi, like shoot all the little fawns, like basically any living creature, that I was just out there to kill it. And once I actually got to unpack the benefits of hunting in these areas, and that also, like, if a landowner's like, man, I'm sick of the deer eating my flowers, whatever it may be, I want you to take some deer, we'll take some deer. Like, we accommodate what that particular landowner wants. If they need help with some, like, work around the place, like, we're happy to do it. But, this particular lady, once I was able to talk with her about the benefits of hunting with management, things like that, she actually saw the great benefits from it. And I also explained, I'm also targeting a deer that's old. It's an old buck. You've probably never seen it before. Moves around mostly at night. Like, I am specifically going after one buck. And so when she found out I was going after one buck as opposed to just, shooting every living walking deer, fawns, like moms and all that stuff, like, she knew I was targeting one specific mature animal. It just totally, opened her eyes to what I was actually doing. So her just initial reaction was abrupt and just like, no. So a lot of times when talking to landowners, like, I try to unpack a little bit more of like the reasons why. Again, you got to read the room. Some people, like, if you push it too far, they'll start to get frustrated with you. But I like to ask why, because sometimes you can kind of work past those. And a lot of times, like, for example, where I killed the upside down buck, that took like 6, 7, 8 months of revisiting that property over and over and over and over again. Most people would have probably visited it one time, maybe twice, and then just kind of move on. It's like, it took me 7, 8 months to get a yes from that place. And I was the only person who was able to get access on that deer. So access is extremely important. Finding these areas where deer can get old is extremely important. There's a lot of other things that I do kind of hold tight to my chest about, like, particular areas, but what I'm telling you with the sanctuary spots, it's universal across the country, rural, suburban. You can apply it to both. So I hope I haven't shot myself in the foot a little too much on giving y'all some information on how to find big deer. But as long as you're able to find sanctuary areas like that where they can get old, put yourself in position to have a chance at a deer like that, you're going to find yourself hunting some really big deer.